Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the View 52 Challenge. I'm your host, Jack Pinchuk, and joining me today, as always, is Alex. Alex, how are you doing today?
Lean, mean, I haven't slept in years.
Fair enough. And also joining us for this year-long journey through classic cinema with us is the one, the only Melissa Woody. Melissa, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I woke up a little grumpy, but I'm excited about talking about these movies today.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Right in.
So for those of you that don't know what the View 52 Challenge is, it is a 52-week long classic movie challenge. Classic movies in this case, it is anything released before the year of 1970. So you'll find a lot of really old movies, a lot of movies that are black and white, silent movies, and it started because I want to expand my classic film repertoire, and I asked Alex, "Hey, did you want to do this with me?" And his immediate response was, "Not really, but sure." The classic Alex response to doing any show with us. So yeah. And then we were putting this challenge together, and we're like, we should really add a third person to this. And Alex says, Melissa Woody loves movies, and you should invite her to be part of this. And I'm like, for sure. So I sent Melissa a message, and she was more than happy to come on board. And so, yeah, here we are. So for this episode, we're covering the challenges that were for the month of January. So week 1 was a film nominated at the first Academy Awards. Week 2, a film by Dorothy Arzner. Week 3, a film featuring Joan Crawford. And week 4, an Italian film. And so with all those movies, there was a little bit of overlap. But for the most part, I think we picked pretty much completely different movies. I think there was only one movie that was overlap for this month, which is nice because, what was I saying? Whatever. Only one movie overlapped, and yeah, so we got to watch a lot of really old movies. Some of them were great, others weren't, and we'll get to those. So I guess we can start with the first week. Film nominated at the first Academy Awards. Alex, we'll start with you. What movie did you watch? Tell us all about it.
So, at the first Academy Awards, at the first Academy Awards, there were 2 top prizes given out. For Picture This, we'd already watched one, so I went with the other one. Jack, throw it up on the screen. We picked,
oh yeah, that's right.
Yep. But Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans. A movie. Sunrise, Song of Two Humans. It is Murnau's first Western American film that he did after leaving Germany, and it is a pretty darn good time. It is also incredibly weird if you just start with Sunrise. You have to deal with the fact that you're going back to a silent movie. You have to deal with the fact that you're going back to black and white, and you had to deal with the fact that Murnau was an incredibly bleak director, who was I don't know if he was trying to make a splash, but he was trying to adapt to the American audience, and he thought the best way to do that was to present a love story that starts with a homicide attempt. And that really tells you everything you need to know about Murnau. He I guess are we summarizing it, Jack?
Yeah, I guess like give your thoughts on the movie. If you want to summarize the movie, you can.
Sure. The sunrise starts with essentially a man that's cheating on his husband, and the mistress says, "Hey, you got to get rid of this wife. you got to get rid of this wife." And he, long story short, he doesn't. They go into the city together to like kind of deal with this whole homicide attempt thing. And over the course of the movie, he wins her back, and then on the way home, she almost dies, and he has to deal with that. It's just a really movie. It's shot really well. It's acted really well. Although I don't know if I'll ever get like, because I don't spend a lot of time in the silent era. I don't know if I'll ever get really used to the overly dramatic style of acting that is both I don't know if I'll ever get used to being subdued and overdone at the same time. That's just like I have a really hard time with that. But it's as a movie, as like an overall construction, I would say it's a really, really well done film.
It's fair.
Yeah. I mean, this was my favorite one out of the three this week, to be honest. I thought it was really visually stunning, and I really liked the editing and set design. And it was like a simple story, but it was very like human, you may say.
Yeah, some might say this also won Best Picture.
I may
would
or
say
may
this
not
is
be
the
one
better
of those
picture.
ones.
I would say this is the better picture.
Yes, this is a better picture than the one that won Best Picture. Spoiler alert, maybe for a later movie, but we will. I will say I watched this years ago in film studies back in high school, and I forgot that I had seen it until last year when I rewatched it for Picture This, because it was one of the extra credit films, because it was technically nominated for Best Picture and won, even though it didn't actually win because the Academy doesn't credit it with the win for whatever reason. I don't know. Janet Gaynor is so good in this movie. Between this and Seventh Heaven, and I haven't seen the third movie that she was technically nominated for and won for. I think this is her better performance, far and away, from Seventh Heaven. Some gorgeous cinematography and really creative editing choices. I have a really good time with this one every time I see it, and I wish I had time to revisit it before this show, but my month was very busy, so I didn't have time to get back to this one before the episode, but I saw it within the last year. So, all right, I guess we can segue right into my pick, which was Seventh Heaven. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't have a lot to say about this movie. I remember really liking Janet Gaynor's performance in the movie. I thought it was very sad, very touching performance. However, I couldn't tell you anything that happens past the first 45 minutes, because immediately after this, I had a little too much plant, and as Wally would say, and I don't remember the rest. I'm sorry. It's a bit of a nothing burger of a movie, but some nice shots. Janet Gaynor, it boosted it to 3.5 stars when I saw it. I don't know if I stand by that rating now, but no. So yeah, that's Seventh Heaven for me. Someone else, take it away.
I mean, I would say, like, in retrospect, I probably liked the movie even less. I don't even know what I gave it, but
You gave it 2 stars.
Yeah, probably more like a 1. I just
Ooh.
it's very forgettable. It's very misogynistic. I'm pretty sure he either slaps her or kind of manhandles her at some point, I think, in the film. He's clearly an alcoholic. Uh, it wasn't a very enjoyable watch. And like you said, it's silent film's already a little hard at times to get through just because of the over dramatic kind of acting. But yeah, kind of forgettable.
This is
Yeah, yeah, okay. Janet Gaynor's fine in it. I almost do wish we would go back to the system of like you have to like you're nominated for all of your works in the whole year. Like who actually was the best, not single performer, but who was just the best performer of the year. That's like a really interesting way to do it. This movie is like so underdone. Like they don't really develop any concepts, and I'm automatically taking off 2 stars or more now. Starting now, I'm taking off 2 stars or more for any movie that does the war broke out. As I'm so done with that. This is the first casualty of Picture This is like any movie that does and then the war broke out. No, write that in. Write that in better. Yeah, it's if we do like a tier list, you can skip this. You can skip Seventh Heaven. Watch the show with Jessica Biel. It's better.
Yeah, one of my notes for this one was these people don't know what love is. Because they don't.
Yeah.
It's so toxic and so stupid. Like
Dude's
they're
such
just
a
very
knob.
lonely, desperate people.
Yeah. The guy's a doorknob. She has never. It is like that one thing of like the first person. If you grew up like horribly abused, the first person that's nice to you, you'll like just latch onto like this,
Yeah.
and you just won't let go.
That's
Which
definitely
actually,
the
I think we
vibe.
run into that a couple times this month. So it was weird to see the through lines start to form already.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I guess the priest just gives out the jobs of the city because he goes from sewer worker to street sweeper. Like once the priest is like, here, you can sweep this street tomorrow.
Yeah, you just show up for work one day and then you're like, hey, I didn't get paid. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
Then you just ask for an ID and you just work there now. Yeah, it's my orcs attack from playing D&D. It's orcs attack now.
I love it. All right, Melissa, I think that
Go ahead, sorry.
we'll talk about a little bit, a slightly better movie. Actually, a fair bit better, I guess. Wings.
Not much, I would say. Speaking of war, that was the parts of the movie I really didn't enjoy. I do think it's like visually done well. I think it's way too long for what it is, for what the story is. I think half an hour or 40 minutes could have been shaven off at some point. I did really enjoy like the love triangles kind of that were going on. But kind of going with like themes of this month, I feel like a lot of the movies that we watched had a lot of examples of like, this guy does not deserve this girl. And like, I thought the character of Mary was really awesome in this movie. And I was just so annoyed with how it ended. Because I just felt like he did not deserve her in the slightest.
That's fair.
She was kind of like friend zoned at the beginning. And it kind of just felt like, oh, it didn't work out with the other girl. So I'll just settle for you.
Is this a good friend Clarabeau that we're talking about?
Yes.
Just remind me. Yeah.
This is Clarabeau.
So
picture this as first standout performer, Clarabeau.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun things about Wings. The thing that I remember about Wings is that and actually another kind of through line of the month is just men being weird.
Yes.
Like,
you're absolutely right about that.
The Wings in every movie sense has decided that like, oh, these dudes want to be friends. You know what they have to do? They have to punch each other. And like sometimes, sure, punching is fine, but that's not like the only way to do it. Like these guys are in the military. They're gonna be stuck together for months, years at a time. They're gonna have to figure this out eventually. It doesn't have to happen through punching. I just remember sitting there watching, going, they're gonna do this whole boxing scene. All right, here we go. And then they're friends after.
Yeah, David Fincher would like to have a word with you because apparently punching people is the only way that two men can become friends.
Fucking fight Fincher too.
Watch Fight Club. I don't know.
That's not true. And just I don't know why, but I mean, when I was watching this film, I just kept thinking like about Top Gun Maverick. It was just hard not to.
That's fair.
But I was just like, it was fine, but like that's how I felt about it. It was fine.
Yeah.
Almost 100 years ago, people died making this movie, and we're like, nah.
Right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I like it. I get a lot more than you. I think quite a bit more than you do, but like, I get it. Like, I get it. It's way too long. This could be cut right down a little bit. It needs a more effective editor.
Yeah.
And just like one of the questions I kind of have for silent films in general, like, do they actually have like a full script, or is it more like improv? Like, hey, just kind of do this in this scene.
I would love to know that as well.
But that was just like a thought I had when I was watching kind of these films. I'm like, is there truly like a script? Because there's also, I think it was in Sunrise. They're clearly like swearing, like "fuck you" or like I don't know, like they were swearing something, but that's like not what the card said, obviously. But I'm like, was that like in the script, or was he just like angry in that scene? I don't know.
I would love to know that. That would be really interesting to know. But I will say, maybe Barr has an answer.
Scripts. All right.
Lovely. I will say, once again, Clara Bow is the best part of this movie. I just wanted to point that out again. Her performance is really solid. I can't remember the two men's names in this movie, but
neither could I.
which is kind of sad because I also saw this within the last year and didn't have the time this month to go back.
Richard Arlen and Charles Roger. David and Jack.
Well, it's sad that I couldn't remember that one of them was named Jack. That's a bit of a fail on my part. Well, oof. Okay. Won't forget that again. Hopefully. I can't remember which one dies, but I'm pretty sure this is the first, or at least one of the first examples of a gay kiss or same-sex kiss on screen, which I guess that's cool. Bit of movie history there, movie history fact. But other than that, I don't have a lot really to say about the movie. The cars, the shooting star, I think. Gary Cooper, I think, shows up for one scene and then gets blown up in a plane.
See you in the skies, boys.
Yeah, that's the thing. Also, I just want to point out the reason we started with the film nominated at the first Academy Awards. I wanted to start with the first one, then end with the Academy Awards for movies released in 1969, because that's like the end of the classic Hollywood era. So that's the whole reason we started with this challenge. And I think for the most part, well, at least for Sunrise anyway, it was a success. The movies were a success. But it only gets better from here, right? Because next week is a film by Dorothy Arzner, which the reason we picked Dorothy Arzner is because in terms of female directors in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, there weren't a lot of them. And from what I could find, Dorothy Arzner was like the biggest female director in like the late 20s to early 40s. So I thought, hey, it would be a really good idea to explore some of her filmography. And after watching a couple of her movies, I'm really looking forward to watching more, like Merrily We Go to Hell, which we didn't end up watching for the show. But anyway, Alex, tell us about The Bride Wore Red.
Okay, so The Bride Wore Red is, I think I described it. There's a Frank Capra movie called Lady for a Day, where everyone has to like the entire gangster community of this one city comes together and they like make up this like older lady, Apple Annie, and they like make her appear like she's really rich, so like because her daughter's coming to town or something, and she's been lying to her daughter this whole time. I think I described The Bride Wore Red as Lady for a Day for people who spike the punch and then drink it with everyone else and then cry. A huge part of that is because Joan Crawford is the lead, and Joan Crawford has such great like wicked stepmother energy. Like she just has this wonderful meanness, this wonderful like bitterness in every single one of her lines that she's ever said ever. And Dorothy Arzner was actually like a really interesting filmmaker from what I've seen of her filmography, and as like an interesting contrast to Frank Capra, who was like who was very optimistic at the time of making Lady for a Day. Dorothy Arzner seems kind of like mellow about this whole rich person thing. She seems like she doesn't really seem to like care. Like I'm sure Dorothy Arzner was doing fine, although she doesn't seem to really enjoy money. She does seem to think that it's like fun to have for a little bit, and then eventually you want to settle down. But in that like couple of week span, you might as well just mess some stuff up. I don't know, break up a relationship maybe, get some cool clothes out of it, and then just hang out, eat some cool food. Yeah, that's what The Bride Wore Red is kind of. It's just a kind of tour of richness. Stay in a nice hotel, get some pleasant locations, and because it's Joan Crawford, see if you can break up a relationship just on the side, just like really sly. See how many dudes you can get out of the weekend, just to see. Who knows?
Oh yeah, I watched this with Alex the other day because it's not anywhere in Canada, not even on MovieBox. Literally couldn't find it, so I asked Alex if he would rewatch it with me, and said yes, thank God, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to see it. This movie is a lot of fun. It's not quite as good as the other Arzner movie that we watched, I'll say, but Joan Crawford is so much fun to watch. I don't know who the hell that old man in the very first scene was. That he just shows up, gives her a shit ton of money, and says, "Okay, bye," and disappears from the movie.
Yeah,
and you never see him again. I don't know.
Well,
But
besides the letter, I think he's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that. She's still there. All right." Like essentially,
one more week, then you get out.
Oh, that's right.
I'm not paying for this.
That's right. I'm an idiot.
No, you're fine. I mean, he was. No, you're not an idiot. No, he wasn't physically there, but it was like through the letter.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah. What was I saying? Joan Crawford's a lot of fun. Franchot Tone, I don't know how to say his first name. He's the guy from Mutiny on the Bounty that was also nominated along with Clark Gable and Charles Laughton for the Oscar that year. He's a lot of fun in it. I don't really have a whole lot to say. It's a good time. It's a pretty good time. It was an enjoyable, fun time. Otherwise, I don't have a whole lot to say on the film itself. Arzner's direction was solid.
I actually do have one thing to add about this movie, and that is Joan Crawford and the main actor's name. Oh God, that is a very complicated name. That is a complicated name. Franchot Tone.
Yeah.
Were married at the time of making this film.
Oh,
they were married in like they had been married for a couple of years prior, and then they divorced a couple of years later. Having found that out like 20 seconds ago, you think their chemistry would be better, but it isn't.
Yeah.
It's not. This is like a fun sandbox for Joan.
Yeah, the movie again is somewhat forgettable. I do like a lot of her costumes. I think she looked beautiful in like the close-up scenes, and some of the cinematography it is nice to look at. But that was a problem I had with the film, is like I felt like they didn't have a lot of chemistry, and then I I did not believe that she was this like poor woman, like at any point. Like, so it was hard for me to like get on with the story. That's this like rag to riches story. Like
Yeah.
she kind of jumped in just fine. And we didn't get a lot of her backstory that it just didn't really work for me.
Sure, yeah, she still looked like she belonged with all the rich stuff, and I guess that really is a problem.
Yeah, from the moment you see her singing in the bar, she kind of looks like she belongs in that with that crowd. So, yeah, I guess if we're done with The Bride Wore Red, we can move on to mine and Melissa's pick, which was the only overlapping movie this month, Dance Girl Dance. Melissa, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. I thought this movie was a lot of fun. I did really like seeing Lucille Ball in a film, because I only really know her from I Love Lucy, so it was cool to like see her in a film. I thought she was by far the strongest character in the film as Bubbles, which that's just a fun name. But I don't know. I kind of struggled with this film as well. I thought Bubbles was the strongest character, and I thought the strongest moment was the monologue kind of towards the end. And I apologize, what is her name? Judy?
I'm looking for it now.
Yeah, Judy. Her monologue kind of to the audience. Like, I thought that was the strongest part of the film. I don't really know. I'm a little lost in the message that Dorothy's kind of trying to I guess explore or say. I will say I find Dorothy Arzner very interesting, like as a person. Like I kind of read some stuff about her, and I'm very intrigued about her as like a person. But so far with these two films, I'm not like blown away. They're fine, but we'll see if I continue on with her other films. But also, what was with the Ferdinand like doll? Like,
Yeah,
I felt like that was such a weird.
That probably has to do with like that has to be like an of the time reference that we're just like,
yeah, it's over my head.
Yeah,
it has to be. The fact that Lucille Ball was the main reason I picked this movie for this challenge. The fact she was in it. She's a lot of fun as Bubbles. She's I guess the villain. She is kind of the villain of the movie, but she's also paying for everyone's rent as well. So that's something. But no, she's a lot of fun when they have their brawl on the stage. It's a lot of fun to watch, and that night court scene is so great. The judge when he's trying to advise Maureen O'Hara's character, saying like, "Oh, this is what you actually mean." She's like, "No, I wanted to kill her." It's just like, oh. No, that was a great moment. I had a lot of fun with this movie. Again, one that Alex and I saw, and I wasn't sure what to expect going in, and and I'm also not entirely sure about that Ferdinand thing, but whatever. It's a fun time. I've got no other real notes for this one. I have to start taking better notes. Watching these
y'all are taking notes. I'm just watching. I'm just hanging out. So Dance Girl Dance. I've actually seen this one before. I did like 100 movies in 100 days project a couple of years ago, and that was interesting. But Dance Girl Dance was one of the movies that I had picked for it, and I think my key to Dorothy Arzner is that I think she's just a really like ahead of almost like ahead of her time, but she knows it kind of a filmmaker that like this is gonna play well in the 70s or something, where just like these big dramatic speeches criticizing the audience. Because I think that's what Dance Girl Dance is like, oh, you came to see like Lucille Ball being hot, huh? All right. you can have that, I guess, but we're gonna have a talk about it by the end. And yeah, just getting as much out of it, and like even though Lucille Ball is technically the closest thing this movie has to a villain, showing that like that even that relationship is more complicated. They're only not friends when they're competing against each other for something, whether it be like this person's attention or the jobs. Like that's the only time that they're on bad terms. Once they have those things, like, well, I'll see you next week or whatever. And I always find that part of people's friendships really interesting. Of like, as long as we don't want the same things, we're fine, we're good.
Yeah, definitely frenemies.
Yeah, definitely Lucille Ball, ultimate frenemy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. She was a lot of fun in this movie. Okay, this next challenge I want to spend a little bit more time on because I think I speak for everyone here when I say this week here had the best just group of 3 movies that we watched for the challenge.
So.
And week 3 was a film featuring Joan Crawford. Alex, kick us off.
Okay, so The Women is probably the worst movie that we watched, but it's also one of the, I think maybe in concept, the most interesting, and that is make a movie about a lot of it is women's relationship with each other, but a lot of it is also like their relationship with men, and then take all of the men out of it, and just set it in places where women hang out in the 30s. There's a lot of like clubs, there's a lot of dressing rooms, a lot of there's some like kitchen scenes. There's just a lot of places where they would just talk. And that's like a really interesting framing device for just a very low drama movie. And they just got every single person that they possibly could and just here. Oh, Norma Shearer, you get in here. Joan Crawford, good, you're here. Rosalind, you're here. Great, come in. They got like they got like the local gossip journalist, and they were like, "Come on, it's important.
Get in here."
Yeah, Joan, get in here. Good. And they just like stacked all of these people in, and then they were like, all right, really important though, no men, get out. And it's fun unless it isn't, and then it stops being fun, and then it gets fun shortly thereafter. A lot of like relationship talk, and I think that's going to be like a huge barrier for people that like, oh, this isn't dramatic. But if it's your life and it's their life, like it is their lives, it is actually like super dramatic to them. Like if they're married or divorced, having to go get a divorce, having, getting back together potentially with your husband, who's now got your husband. Like this is all stuff that is dramatic in a real life that isn't necessarily super dramatic in a movie. So it really just depends on how you will react to it personally.
Yeah, no, I thought this movie was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that it was a full women's cast. Like that was so cool to see. That not one man was physically in the film. And I think that ultimately was my biggest problem, was like I felt too much of the story, too much of what they were talking about was men. But besides that, I thought it was really a good time, and I loved the opening sequence with all the different animals, with like the different characters. That was fun. And
who thought their spirit animal to be a cow? I feel a little bit bad.
But I felt like either the animals were in the movie at some point, or it was like tied into the dialogue with like the characters, which I thought was really cool to see. And then I thought that Technicolor like fashion show that meant like that was so random in the middle.
It just
of the
is
film.
in there, and then you stop being in that fashion show.
But I wanted to be there for a while. Like it was a good time. I felt like I was in a music video or something. I was like, this is great.
This is a really good movie. I was honestly really surprised how much I liked this movie. I agree, Matthew. The fashion show was so cool. It probably not my favorite scene from the movie, but it's close because it's just black and white. Technicolor, and then back to black and white. But no, this was a really fun movie. After watching it and sitting for about 30 minutes, I randomly just texted Alex, "Wait, did I miss something, or were there like no men in this movie?" Alex was like, "Yeah, no, none of them had lines if there were any in the movie." I'm like, "Huh, good job, 1930s Hollywood. I didn't expect that from you." George Cukor directs this really well. I'm a fan of the screenplay. It's got some really great lines in it. One of the best is, "Oh, the publicity, la publicity," is her just screaming "la publicity" at the top of her lungs at the end of the film. It is so much fun. I had a great time with this one, and honestly, I can see myself actually revisiting this movie, which for the other two, I can't necessarily say the same. Dance Girl Dance, I might revisit, like the other two that I watched for the Dance Girl Dance I might revisit, but I can't see myself revisiting Seventh Heaven. I really can't.
Yeah, no, thank you.
It's there, it exists. I saw it, and this one is just so much fun to watch. Some really great moments. Again, another brawl happens in this one, and that's also a lot of fun. So, also Joan Crawford once again just proves she can steal any man she wants. I don't know.
It's a menace. It's a menace is what she is.
It was a vibe, her in the bathtub, like smoking and on the phone. I was like, I love this.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair. All right. We're going to go to my film now, which is my second favorite movie I watched for the challenge so far. It's Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And I'm going to tell you right now, this movie stressed me the fuck out. A lot. This was one of the most anxious, this was the most anxious I've been in a movie since watching, I don't know, maybe Uncut Gems a couple years ago. Like just so many great moments in this movie of just pure tension when, so for those of you who don't know what this movie's about, Baby Jane was a child star on the stage and pursued a career in film afterwards, but her sister also became a much bigger movie star than she was. And then after a terrible accident when they were like young adults, her sister was paralyzed, and so Baby Jane is now taking care of her. They're both in like their 50s at this point, and Jane has lost it. She's basically living in a fantasy world at this point. Bette Davis is outstanding in this film. 100% deserves her Oscar nomination. She's out of her mind in this movie. Joan Crawford is phenomenal. She doesn't have as much to do, mostly because she's confined to a bed in a wheelchair, but I found her performance to be just as gripping. Bette Davis obviously is the more showy performance in the film, but Joan Crawford is really good as well. The scene where she opens the lunch tray and sees the dead bird and starts just screaming and like in her wheelchair just going around in circles is pure terror. Pure terror. I had a great time with this. I can't wait to revisit it, which is shocking because of how anxious it made me. Every moment just felt right for this movie. I had a great time. What did you guys think?
Yeah, those are my favorite kind of films that make me incredibly anxious or that are extremely tragic. Like those are the movies I gravitate towards. Those are the movies I tend to rewatch. This was the only movie that was a rewatch for me. Otherwise, all the other films were first-time watches for this month, and it was great to revisit. I I watched it last night. Yeah, it's terrifying. It's also really funny too, at like kind of dark humor, but like when she's imitating Blanche on the phone, like those type of scenes are pretty great. Yeah, there's a lot to this film for sure, especially like considering the real life feud between the two. There's a lot of layers and a lot of dissecting to do with this film. I feel like I want to own this film and I want to watch it over and over again.
Yeah, I had heard like vaguely about the feud that was that they had between them, and so I can't remember exactly who I was hanging out with. I think it might have been Boatman. We were on call one night, and I was mentioning, oh yeah, I'll be watching Whatever Happened to Baby Jane soon, and he's like, oh yeah, great movie, you'll like it. I'm like, wasn't there like some kind of like didn't Joan Crawford and Betty Davis like not get along making that movie? Like, wasn't there a bit of a feud there? And he's like, there was enough of a feud there for them to make a mini series about it. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. I have to watch that now that I've seen the movie.
Yeah, I've yet to see it, but I've heard great things about the show. I don't know if you've seen it, Alex, but
or haven't seen it. Although
I don't know.
Jessica Lange and Susan Sarandon sound like a really interesting pair. Alfred Molina's in it. The Tooch sounds fun. Yeah, Baby Jane. I guess stress cinema, I think, is like the ultimate inexperience. Because I mean, it's fine to laugh. It's okay to laugh, but if you've got like a dying body somewhere that you have to get out without the police finding you, like just before this, Jack and I were watching a movie called Slight, and there's a scene where a character has to decide whether or not to cut off someone's hand. He's just like. Yeah, that kind of like torture, not like the physical act is horrifying, but like the is enough that like once that's almost more unnerving, and just the thought of being trapped and not having the maximum amount of autonomy that you want, just like not being able to call for help. It's something that I think most people don't know they're afraid of until it's happening to them. Mm-hmm. And you really got to make peace with that before it does, before God forbid it happens. It's like once you're in it and you realize, oh, she's in the wheelchair, she's tied to this bed, she can't leave. She's got to figure it out. Come on, make some moves. You really do start rooting. You start rooting for her, and then this other person is going through this like intense moment in their lives, and you also like you don't want anything terrible to happen to her because she's clearly dealing with this psychotic break. But at the same time, you're like, but she can't keep that body in there. You can't. This is not good either. This is not good for either of you. And then the conclusion of it is also like this is fantastic, fine ending. I think Whatever Happened to Baby Jane is just wonderful. I couldn't believe I'd watched a movie before it, and I thought that was pretty good, and I couldn't believe something topped it. This is probably my favorite movie that we've watched so far for this.
Yeah, this was my favorite, even though it was a rewatch. It's so good, and yeah, she clearly is so mentally ill, and she's so regressed back into her Baby Jane state, like, you know, the way that she still wears the makeup and the curls and the dresses. It's like, how old are you? Just the mental capacity it's young and naive.
It's also it's really what happens. The scene on the beach.
Oh,
it's
so
like
good.
Messed up because like she's a child star. That's what she is. She's a child star, and how she's like never moved past that point. Like her psychotic break is still rooted in that. Is really interesting. Also say was really interesting is watching Joan Crawford play sympathetic, because normally she like has this like mean girl energy to her. So watching her have to like elicit sympathy is really interesting. Like she looks like she looks appropriately uncomfortable for the situation she's in. I think she probably, if she had done the casting, she would have cast herself as Baby Jane and not Blanche.
Yeah, I can see that. And Letters to Daddy, whew, that is like a creepy
Oh,
song.
God. Okay. Also, one of the moments in this film that just lingers in my mind is, I don't want to give too many spoilers away for the people that haven't seen the movie, but there is a moment where someone is at a door with a hammer, and someone else comes up the stairs and they set the hammer down on the table, and I am screaming at the screen, no, don't put the hammer down. Oh,
which you would only ever get from a stress drama. You would only ever get that from stressy filmmaking, where you're like, no, you almost had it.
Oh dear Lord, that whatever happened to Baby Jane is incredible, and I can't wait to revisit it. Melissa, let's move on to your movie, Mildred Pierce.
Yeah, this was probably my second favorite film that we watched for the month of January. It's essentially a film noir that's female-led by Joan Crawford as Mildred Pierce. And she's a successful businesswoman. I feel like it's pretty progressive in the sense that it came out in the 1940s, and she's getting a divorce and being the successful businesswoman. It feels very strange, but really cool to see in a film from that time period. I like want to go back in time and kind of know what that was like with having this film in the like I don't know, pop culture. It just seems really interesting to me. But I really love that, like the true like crust of the story is I feel like the nature versus nurture debate, because it's like, okay, is this daughter like the way that she is because she just was born this way, or was it because Mildred was maybe, you know, gave her too much, or was maybe not there enough because she was running the different businesses? So I just think it's a really interesting like psychological kind of movie of the character of Vita, like how she becomes the way that she does. And I really like how the film is framed, where it kind of leads you one way, and then at the end you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I watched this movie for Picture This a couple months ago, and because it was extra credit for 1945, it was nominated for Best Picture. This is the movie Joan Crawford won her Best Actress Oscar for, very deservedly so, in my opinion. She's fantastic in this. The screenplay is airtight. I love this movie so much. I think it's probably, had this come out a year earlier, I'd say, or a year later, I'd say Anne Blythe should have won Best Supporting Actress for playing the daughter. But Lost Weekend, Jane Wyman, I've said this a million times. Fantastic ending. I love the way the story is structured with the non-linear style, with her giving the interviews in the police station, jumping back and forth between like her past and like her actually in the interrogation room, and her story changing as more is revealed throughout the film. I thought this was an incredible film, and I also didn't have the opportunity to rewatch this. Unfortunately, I wish I did, but it was just a really busy month for me. Alex, this was a first time watch for you, I think.
Yeah, and it was really interesting because in again, for every Joan Crawford movie I had seen, she'd played this like wicked stepmother, like wicked witch of the East kind of energy. And for Mildred Pierce, she had to play not even necessarily sympathetic, because she has to play neutral. She has to like stay composed, because she has to stay composed in like in this bouncing off of all these relationships. It kind of reminds me of, I don't know, like, do y'all know what The Last 5 Years is?
I've heard of it. I don't know.
Okay, so in The Last 5 Years, it's a musical, and it's about the end of this like relationship, but they start at one person starts at the end of the relationship, and one person starts at the beginning of the relationship, and they like pass by each other. It's this like stage production. There's also an Anna Kendrick. There's also an Anna Kendrick movie about it, which is, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Cameron Holtzman would say it's awful. Just to piss him off, I will say it's pretty good.
You have my full respect, Alex.
But yeah, just this really fun traditional noir. I actually think she probably would. Jack would not. It is like a really fun noir. Just like really, probably if someone was looking for a traditional noir movie, I would probably recommend them this. It's like a really easy, good follow, good watch. Very easy to follow. You just flies right by. Honestly, I didn't even realize it's about 2 hours long or so. I didn't realize that I had been that deep into it. When the ending came, I was like, "Oh, we're here! Oh, okay, great, cool, sweet."
Yeah. Once again, absolutely deserved Oscar win for Joan Crawford here. I think. Fantastic.
I think, yeah. The last thing I will say is I really wish Mildred ended up with Ida. I would have loved the movie more, because that's like what I think in my head, or like what I want to happen.
That is 100% valid. That would make the movie better, honestly.
It would.
Yeah. All right. This last week for this month the challenge was you have to watch an Italian film. And I just want to say off the bat, there is a reason I picked mine, and I will get to it when we get to my movie. But Alex, you can kick us off with yours.
I'm not an expert in international cinema. I'm just gonna admit it. I'm just not. There are many things that I am an expert in. Bread, I'm really good at bread. But Italian films, not really. So I chose Bitter Rice because the name sounded cool. Sometimes you do that. Sometimes you just think, oh, that sounds neat. I'll look at the plot synopsis for it. And you read like a paragraph of thing, and you're like, sure. And you watch that movie, and sometimes that movie is just okay. And that's fine. What I'll say about Bitter Rice is that the performances in it are very good. They found every Italian woman they could, it seems, and were like, all right, here's a tight shirt, go. And they just they sent them out into a field. We were talking about my Twitter crimes before we went live. My most recent Twitter crime, I think, is I have been posting little summaries of the weeks. Week 4 for Italian films, I said Italian women and the me that blushes around them. I think that is pretty much the sentiment for the whole week. And Bitter Rice specifically, the character of Silvana. Like, there's not an official list, but if I were to make a list of the 100 most beautiful creatures God ever made for film, Silvana right there on that list. Just absolutely wonderful. It's also about like workers' rights or whatever, and that stuff's it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think the film, like, they're on the surface level, it's about these women rice workers, which I've never seen a film about that, so that was cool to see. But in like the little, like the love square, I guess that's going on. But I definitely think there's some themes and messages about like socialism and capitalism, and maybe a demise of a specific character because of that. But No, this one really surprised me. I really liked it. Kind of going into it, I was like, bitter rice. All right, we'll see what happens. I also did look up, and it I guess the like Italian version of the title, I guess rice can also translate to laughter. So it's like a pun of like bitter
that's cool.
laughter or bitter rice, which was kind of cool.
I like that. That is cool. Yeah, I watched this movie yesterday, and it was one of 3 Italian movies I saw in a small 12-hour span yesterday. So it was great. I had a really good time with this one. I was intrigued immediately during that train station arrest gone wrong when the women were heading to the rice fields. I think Silvana is a really great character in this film. Very, very tragic character, and I really love the performance. I know that this is the year that Bicycle Thieves came out, and I'm pretty sure that was Italy's submission for international feature film. That was when it was still like an honorary award. Like it wasn't a competitive award until 56.
They just picked one, and they were like,
yeah,
the best movie.
But had it sucks that Bicycle Thieves came out that year, because I really liked that movie. It would have been nice to add another movie to my international feature film ranking, but that's okay. Really, really well done story. I had a surprisingly good time with it after Alex's underwhelming 3-star review, and his review is priceless. I love it.
I don't remember.
But no.
What crime have I committed now?
The real it was something.
Oh, right. The real rice was the friendship we ate along the way, or something like that. Yeah.
I love that crime.
That's one of Alex's better crimes. But no. And to quote Alex, Silvana, I can't remember her last name, is one of the most gorgeous creatures God ever created. This is fact. So anyway, with that, we'll move on to my pick, which I can explain why I picked yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I swear the
Please do.
Season.
I actually cannot hear you right now.
Best
at all.
I have here. And I wanted to see how that lost, because I've heard nothing.
I want to explain one, and I know nothing more than I already did. Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow is an anthology film that starts with its best segment and then stops being interesting immediately. I think you are the most negative about this movie, and I completely understand. I think you gave it 1 star. I called it thoroughly mid. I like the first segment. Everything after that might as well have not existed. Because I think the first segment is a feature. It was feature length. It was 40-something minutes long. They could have just stopped, and then they just kept dressing up Sophia Loren in other stuff and just being like, go.
Yeah, this was my least favorite of the month. I watched it this morning, so it's fairly fresh in my mind. I have a lot of problems with it. I did not like any of the segments. I don't understand what the point of this film is. To me, the point is, okay, have many babies and don't face your problems. Be hot and toxic. Be like be manipulative and get away with things. Like I don't understand.
Yeah,
it just felt like she is this like sex symbol. Not so much in the first one, I guess, but like
in the second
I didn't have any, like, I just didn't care about her character at any point.
Sure.
And I just thought, this is not a solution to just keep having children. But okay.
Jack and I, again, it's hard for Jack to find the Italian stuff with subtitles, so we watched this one together, and we were just constantly screaming in the first segment, "That's the law? That can't be the law. You can't arrest a woman if she's pregnant. That's not real. I don't think that's real."
Literally, like the police come to her house to arrest her, and she's just cooking a meal, and they're like, "Yeah, no, ma'am, you're under arrest." And she's like, "No, I've got a doctor's note on the table there. You can read it if you want."
I've got a doctor's
They're
note
like,
from
"Oh,
my prison
congratulations,
sentence."
have a good day." And they leave. It's like, this can't be the law. What are we doing here?
I have a I am thinking about it. The concept of it. I guess you're right. I'm trying to think what I was thinking of when I was watching it, and I just thought, this has got to be an absurd, like an absurdity thing where they're like just playing with, okay, if we make up that this is the thing, then it has to be the thing. But then like it I guess it doesn't track. Like it really just doesn't track. You're right. It's worse. I'm gonna lower that rating. It doesn't make any sense. I guess it's the first segment is okay for me. Everything after that is like, oh no, oh,
See,
stop.
I thought the second segment at least had some interesting dialogue a little bit, but like it's barely there. Barely.
It's literally 20 minutes, and then we're out.
I can't get past her crashing her car
right?
into like 4 different people.
Time.
She's just bumping into men, and she's like, it's like, okay.
Well, they all get out and they're like, ah, and then
it's not real.
Every single car she stops behind, and it's like, what are we doing here? That annoyed me more than anything else in that segment.
Then
the third segment was just Buddy being a simp for Sophia Loren, which.
How much plot does this one guy have to get through to get one striptease from Sophia Loren? The third one was bad. The third one.
Well, yeah. I'm like, okay, is she about to like seduce a minor that's gonna be a priest? Like, what's happening? But
yeah, honestly,
luckily didn't go there. But maybe it would be interesting. ? I don't know. But it says it's a comedy. I didn't laugh.
I don't get that at all.
No, it's not.
I don't get that at all. This is probably the worst one this is almost certainly the worst one that we watched for this whole month.
Honestly, I might lower my rating again. I lowered it.
I probably will too. I have it at mid, but I think me laughing. Mid meaning like, all right, I should explain this. 1 star is I believe you put up the lights. 2 stars is like you thought out this concept a little bit. Like mid is like I don't quite like this yet. 3 stars is the beginning of all right, yeah. 4 stars is this is pretty good, and then 5 stars is I wouldn't like this is as good as this is gonna be. I think. So kind of loose definition, but like for me, mid is like sure. Did I do a good? Yeah, it's you asking like your parents. Did you do a good job, or did you? It's like me asking.
There is bicycle thieves.
I can't imagine that being true. I can't see bicycle thieves. I won't like it apparently. Yeah. You ever ask like, oh, did you ever make somebody like a plate of food or something, and they're like, do you like it? And you're like, like, yeah, yeah, it's like that. It's this is lukewarm, I think. But yeah, honestly, it's probably just bad. I just think I laughed a lot during the first part, and maybe that's my brain is like, you got the happy chemical, but stop complaining.
Yeah, I didn't exactly get to finish my thoughts. It's not good. Honestly, reorder the segments. It works better, but still doesn't work really. Like, I I just did not understand what they were going for in the third one. The second one was fine. The third one was, or the first one was absurdly funny for just because it's so weird. It's like, this can't be right. But
anyone that hasn't should really watch a movie with me, because you'll hate it. You'll come to my level on it no matter what. Like, I poisoned Rocky for Jack, potentially forever. I have ruined several.
you
Star Wars
didn't
movies.
poison it. I watched it myself as well, you know. Anyway,
that rating dropped, didn't it?
But why,
Anyway.
Jack, before you like cut out, you were explaining like why you picked this. So why did you pick this?
oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, I didn't realize I cut out that early.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't hear a word.
So this won the Oscar for Best International Feature, beating The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which I haven't seen that movie, but I have it later in the challenge. And I have heard specifically from Matthew Chen that it is fantastic. And I cannot imagine that movie losing to this movie, which is just some random Italian bullshit. I don't know. I don't understand how the Academy came to that conclusion. Maybe they were just distracted by Sophia Loren's striptease. I don't know. But
Probably.
I don't get it. I know I can't really comment on it because I haven't seen Umbrellas of Cherbourg, but I've heard nothing but incredible things about that movie, and I'm very excited for it. This one is just sad. It's sad, this one. Anyway, I guess we can just move on to, spoiler alert, an actually good Italian film.
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah, La Strada. So I chose this film because sorry, what's her name? Giulietta Massini. She is in one of my favorite films, Juliet of the Spirits, which I do prefer her in that film, and I recommend y'all watching it at some point. But that's kind of why I chose it, because I really enjoyed her in that film, and I enjoyed her in this film as well. I thought her performance was great. She's definitely one of those actors that can do a lot with her face, kind of convey a lot of different emotions, which is awesome to see. But essentially the story is this guy, he's like a street performer, I guess. I don't really know how to describe exactly what they're doing, but kind of a street performer. Her sister Rosa dies at the beginning of the film, and he essentially comes to the family and like buys her to like go on the road with him.
Mhm.
And it's kind of their journey on the road together, doing street performance kind of stuff, and how their relationship kind of blossoms or doesn't blossom. I don't know how you want to interpret that. It's kind of complicated. But this what is his character's name? Zampino. He is kind of the worst, but I think there is like a through line by the end of the film where you do have some sympathy for him. But I really did enjoy this. I was not sure at the beginning because there was a lot of slapping going on, but besides that.
Yep. I had one. I couldn't stop thinking about this, and once the thought's in my head, that's the end. So he buys her in for 10,000 lira, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then like 3 scenes later, they go to dinner together, and dinner ends up being like around 5,000. So Jack and I did the math on it. He bought her for like $7. Like he bought her for like less than like for like roughly the cost of like 2 dinners. And I'm like, oh, that's horrifying. That's how much it costs to sell someone into clown slavery? That's wild.
Clown slavery.
Oh no, I could have been sold into clown slavery.
That's a good way to put it, though. But yeah, I mean, that is what happens.
Once you get past that, the movie's great. They they have like a really interesting relationship. The lead actors really putting in a lot of work with just acting through clown makeup, which is like just like a whole sheet of makeup on a face, um and just being like really expressive. And it's another one of those things where it's like, if you want me to care about a movie, have someone that really needs a friend and then give them a friend. I'm in. Whatever else we have to do. All right, we're street clowns. Okay. That's weird, but I guess I'll try and I'll try and work with that premise. We're street clowns, but this guy needs a friend. All right, let's go. Yeah, and then they have like a really interesting relationship of just like, he hates her. I think he doesn't really ever know what to do about her, but she's like, we could, it's just two of us, we could, and he's like, hmm. I don't know about that. But yeah, and obviously like it's actually another one of the weird through lines for this month of like the first person that she has like any kind of stability with, she's immediately like, huh?
Yep.
So yeah, just this is a really woman heavy month that we're having here in January. And would you believe none of us talked about this like at all? Like, we did all these picks independently of each other. I made most of mine to torture Jack.
This is fact. Just wait until week. What is that week?
Yeah, what is the week I did just to bother you?
46.
Yeah, week 46. I did something just to bother Jack, and I don't know if Melissa realizes what I've done. Okay, great.
Just
great.
We'll tell you after the show. We're gonna make everyone else wait until week 46.
Okay, sounds great.
Look, I'm not excited for that week.
He's so mad.
But we'll get through it. We'll get through it. Anyway, I'll give my thoughts on Lestrada. Anthony Quinn is great in this movie. Like, yes, he's the very unlikable character that you hate, but you have a small degree of sympathy for him at the end. That final scene is just heartbreaking. I will say, I can't remember her name, but the main woman, the clown girl, who was bought into clown slavery for 10,000 lira for $7. She is so good in this movie. It like just the perfectly just innocent and hopeful performance, and you see her losing it, like losing that sense of hopefulness throughout, and it's just so hard to watch. I had a really good time with this. I go back and forth between this and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane is my personal favorite. I will say Whatever Happened to Baby J is the objective best movie I've seen for the challenge so far. But this is, I just like a good vibes movie every now and again, and this has some really, really good vibes. It's got some moments that are really dour, really challenging to watch, but for the most part, I had a really good time with it, and I would love to rewatch it again and again.
Yeah, there's a good interview on YouTube of Martin Scorsese talking about this film. I recommend watching it.
I would love to see that. I'm gonna find that later. Hour 15. That's not bad for our first episode. I wasn't sure how long this was gonna go, but we made pretty good time. Our next show will be on February 24th, 7 p.m. That's a Friday. Again, we're last Friday of every month. February 24th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The challenges for this week are the screwball comedy. What are y'all picking for that week? 'Cause I picked The Lady Eve.
His Girl Friday.
I'm going Arsenic and Old Lace.
Nice. Can't wait to talk about those. A film set in one location. I picked The Cat and the Canary, another silent film, I believe.
Brink of Life, which this one I'm the most excited about, I would say.
Ingmar Bergman, right? I'm
Correct.
really
Yeah.
excited for that.
And I went Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Hell
I'm
yeah. It's so
super-
great.
Super excited for that movie. A film featuring Shirley MacLaine, week 7. I went with Irma la Douce.
The Children's Hour, which I'm excited for this one.
Oh, so good. So good. So good. And I went with What a Way to Go.
And week 8 is a biopic. Figured it would be interesting to take a look at some older biopics. I went with Ivan the Terrible, part 1, and I'll explain why when we actually get there.
I'm not excited about that at all.
Ooh, 90 minutes.
Okay, well that's good. I chose The Color of Pomegranates. Don't know why, but I chose it.
I don't even know who that is about. Is the thing. Who is that about?
It is about an 18th century Armenian poet named Savat Nova.
All right.
Sure.
Okay, fair enough.
And I went with Funny Girl.
That's a good one.
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm excited to see it. Movie you're most excited to watch for the challenge next month? Melissa, I think you said Brink of Life.
Yes. Ingmar Bergman has been one of my favorite kind of directors in the last few years. I feel like every movie I've seen of his so far is like either 5 stars or 4.5, or I like his style of filmmaking and storytelling. So I'm excited to watch this one.
That's fair. I saw Autumn Sonata for the first time last year. That's the first movie of his I saw, and I loved it. My love, Ingrid Bergman, is in it, and she's great. But I'm really excited for the ones I picked. I'm really excited to see The Cat and the Canary. Reading the synopsis for it, it sounds like a really interesting film. What about you, Alex?
I'm a sucker for Capra, Frank Capra. I'm a huge sucker for. I think like the worst Capra movie is the one that I hate the most. I still argue is like functionally a masterpiece. I just hate It's a Wonderful Life. I just don't agree with the premise. It's not for me. I'm glad other people like it though.
No.
So I'm probably gonna say Arsenic and Old Lace is my most excited, just because like it sounds macabre, and that's where I get a lot of my. That's where I think a lot of natural comedy comes out of like
Fair. This is fair. I'm also quite excited for that one. I've been told by Coho and Boatman I would love that movie. So with that in mind, thank you, Spence. That makes me very happy. I was nervous for this. With that in mind, though, this has been the View 52 Challenge. I've been Jack. On behalf of Alex, Melissa, and everyone doing the challenge along with us, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, I'm excited for that one. Thank you so much for watching. Y'all have a good one. Bye-bye.
Well, nobody's perfect.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Also, thank you, Melissa, for making the intro and outro. You did so good.